Well, welcome to a special edition of the Encounter Faith podcast. My name is Ross, and I am so privileged to be able to have conversations like these, especially today, or maybe I should say particularly today, because today we get to talk about one of my favorite things associated with Good Shepherd, and whether you are connected to Good Shepherd in any way or not, this is a story you need to hear. So I am joined by Jeannine Allen. Jeannine, welcome back. You were here very early on in the podcast. Welcome back.
Thank you so much.
And Jeannine, how about you introduce who else is here with us?
Oh my goodness. Well, we are so excited to be able to welcome our school director from Cherish Watoto Kenya, Bernard Wandera. And it has been, I think, almost 7 years since Bernard has been in the United States. So it's been way too long. And Bernard, a warm welcome to you.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm honored to be part of this conversation.
Bernard, it is a joy to have you with us. You know, one of the things that I'm really excited to dig in with you today, Bernard, is you and your team at Cherish have seen all that God is doing in this, in these circumstances that I think for many here who are going to be listening to the podcast, it requires a sense of them understanding. So part of what I want to be able to do today is help people understand the picture of the work that you and your team do every day. But I want to make sure that nobody leaves this conversation going, well, that was a really nice conversation. So really quickly, just right from the jump, if you're listening to this and you are someone who is already passionate about what we're going to talk about today, great. I am so glad. But please make sure that as we're going, you are thinking about the 5 to 10 to 20 to 100 people that you could be sending this podcast to as a way to invite them into this conversation. Also, if you are brand new to this conversation, which many of you are, in the show notes, wherever you're listening, there is contact information for Jeannine Allen. The easiest way for you to take a next step after listening to this is to talk to Jeannine directly. One of my favorite parts about causes like this, we'll say, to put a broad term to it, is how relational it's going to be. Someone's going to listen to this podcast who doesn't know you, Jeannine, and then they can email you, and all of a sudden you guys are engaged in a conversation. And that kind of direct opportunity doesn't happen nearly as often as it should. So
absolutely. And there is no middleman. There is no organization.
Sure.
It's basically Good Shepherd and Cherish Watoto that are, connecting you directly to the children that we are supporting. So yes, it's unique. And it's beautiful.
Yeah. So let's jump into some of that uniqueness here. So Bernard, I'll frame the question this way. If you're meeting someone for the first time and they ask you, what do you do? I'm curious how you begin to even describe it, because everyone who's ever been to Cherish, usually the first thing they tell me is, other than they changed their life, is it's hard to describe. But as someone who's there every day, how do you describe it?
Cherish Watoto Kenya is an organization, a trust in Kenya, an orphanage and a school that supports orphan and vulnerable children with education. We are, widely known by existing for love. That's our slogan, for love, care, and excellence. And, we take care of these little angels, the children who are needy. And, they are looking up to somebody who can hold their hands and walk with them. And, we do that through various ways. Education is one of the major ones. We run a school, pre-primary, and then a primary, what you guys call here elementary school.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow. You're even able to do that translation work for us. I appreciate that. Yeah.
And partly some junior secondary. So apart from
Middle
that,
school.
children we get mostly from community. There are children who have passed through various kinds of abuse, various kinds of trauma. We had one of the cases, and I want to thank our loving Good Shepherd family, one of our boys, who was sodomized by the father at the age of 9 years. And it was so hard by the time, the child was rescued and brought to Cherish. The boy could not even walk. He could not even, hold urine and, any waste. So what we did after the case was referred to us. We got an opportunity to, just take him to hospital through Good Shepherd. They helped in footing the bills. And, the boy is now doing well. So such kind of cases, those are the kind of children we have. And we are glad that we have a good facility that is able to give them shelter. We give them food. We give them education. And we have amazing centers like practical skills they are also doing in terms of ICT, computer lab. And we also have music center. And I'm glad, most of the staff members and mission teams that are coming to Kenya, they are able to impact the lives of children in various ways by using their giftings.
Yeah. Whew, man. Okay. So there's a couple things that you said there.
Just a little bit of information for you.
So there's a couple things you said there that I want to lean into next. One of the things that I hope people hear that I want to highlight for folks is the breadth of the experience that the kids have. There's the science center. There is the educational opportunities. You're feeding these kids. There are these practical education components. But one of the things that I know also makes Cherish unique is the depth of experience that those folks are able to provide. Can you help people understand a little bit of what life could look like? You gave one tragic example there, but even maybe a sense of what some of the more everyday circumstances look like for someone who's growing up around Cherish, because I want to really highlight and articulate the difference and the refuge that this community is that you lead.
Yeah, I'm glad that our center is one of its kind because we are targeting growth and development of a child in a holistic manner. And when children get opportunity to be at Cherish, they are going to get education, and they are going to ensure they have, we're going to ensure they sleep well. And apart from that, since majority of them have passed through various kinds of abuse, and some of them, they have parents and guardians, but they are unable to support them fully. And even in the communities they live in, slum, it's a very small house and of about 10 by 10 feet, and that is where a family of 7 or 10 people are staying in slum. And a lot of vices, they see a lot of vices happening in the community, drug abuse, and prostitution. And this is a child who has seen these things in slum, and then the next day they are going to school. So what we do immediately, we get such kind of cases. We have very qualified social workers, 2 social workers who are really helping in times of psychosocial support. And also we have a group of teachers. In general, we have about 29 staff members who are working very, very hard to support these children. But amazingly, allow me to talk about social workers who are able to identify these cases, and they do a lot of psychosocial support, which helps in children therapy. You find time after time now children start talking about it, and they get helped, and in such kind of a case we help them grow.
Yeah.
Can I just the one thing that I just have to say that maybe doesn't come across in what he just shared is the love that is at Cherish Watoto. From the moment that those gates open up for us, again, what he's describing is it's really hard to put into words the difficult lives that these children live, because it's beyond what we can imagine. Truly it is. And they go from those very difficult circumstances to being in a loving environment where there's singing and there's joy, and they are cared for and they are fed and they are nurtured. And so not only is learning happening, but healing is happening and nutrition is happening, because Bernard, correct me if I'm misspoken here, but many of these children may not get a meal at their home. Is that correct?
Exactly.
Yes, these are from families that do not have the means to provide even a basic meal for these children.
Majority of families, actually, you'll realize they are even getting 1 meal in a day. And when they have opportunity to be at Cherish, they know at least because of people who are directed by God's love And we have to thank the Good Shepherd family. At least when they are there, they know I'll get some breakfast, I'll get lunch, and for those in boarding section, they get dinner. So we've realized majority of them, they don't want even to miss school because they know their meals. There is balanced diet. And when you are in the facility, you will get to play around with other children, and socially you will also get to grow, which doesn't happen in the community because some of them they live in houses whereby the next room people are brewing some liquor, so it's so hard for those kind of children. A lot of vices happening in the community. So when they are at Cherish, they feel at home, they feel a lot of love. And as I said earlier, that is why we exist, for love, care and excellence.
Man, what I love too that you spoke about is you spoke about your team there, and I should say even the team there, because what I think some folks who hear that, I want to paint with a pretty broad brush here on purpose, because what you've been able to provide is a sense of structure, a sense of excellence, right, to quote directly from your mission,
stability,
and on a fundamental core level, when you compare that to what so many of the kids who are experiencing life outside of Cherish, that is new for them. You are the first to provide a sense of structure for them. And one of my favorite things about opportunities like the partnership between Cherish and Good Shepherd is our role here, to be blunt, is easy. We're providing resources, and that is critically important. But there's a simplicity to what we do because you have built the structure, you have the excellence, you have the teams, you have the experts who are already on the ground engaged in that work, who are already innovating in the absence of resources in certain cases in order to continue to best help provide that loving environment for those kids. And I think not every opportunity like this has that kind of structure on the ground. And Jeannine, I know this is something that you've been able to see even during your time here. We have intentionally cultivated this to be a Kenyan-run experience that folks who are listening are invited into, and not the other way around.
Absolutely. And one of the things about Bernard himself is incredible, and he has an incredible team and staff. And I think Pastor Tara Beth and I, we were truly struck by the fact that many of them themselves, teachers and staff, they have lived very difficult circumstances themselves. Many of them probably still are. But because of that, this is deeply personal for them.
Sure.
This is not just a teaching job. They are really this partnership. Like you said, we provide the resources, but really they are lifting these children out of poverty and putting them on a pathway that only they could do.
Right.
Truly.
Yeah. I want to highlight that for people. I think sometimes getting that specific can feel awkward for some folks, but I think it matters so that people understand the scope of what it means to step into something now. One of the things that I'm sensitive to as someone who stepped into Good Shepherd only a couple of years ago now is this is a relationship that has existed for decades. That has
absolutely 19 years.
There you go. That has constantly been one of the things that I've really admired about it is the ways in which it's been very adaptive. Whenever there's been a need, we've been able to find opportunities to meet those needs. And what I'm particularly mindful of is those of you who are listening who are feeling like, man, there's more that I can do. And one of the things that I find really compelling about Cherish is there are both really practical opportunity. There's a very practical opportunity to get more involved, but also joining this conversation, there's lots of different ways to do that. So Jeannine, I want to ask you, when people hear the phrase child sponsorship, I think there's a couple different reactions. One of which is, okay, what does that really mean in this case? Right. And then one of which is, okay, great. Sign me up. I'm not going to ask any questions. Right. What I love is you guys have created this environment that exists between those two extremes. Can you help people understand what it looks like to sponsor a child who is connected to Cherish? And then Bernard, I want to ask you a follow-up.
Absolutely. So really, the ask is this: for simply $40 a month, you can help be a part of something big. Right now, we have the ability, and Bernard can confirm the numbers, but it fluctuates anywhere from 230 to 260 children that get to attend Cherish. And so your sponsorship dollars help to feed the children. It helps to, provide the water, the electricity, the operational daily cost for these students, as well as the materials that they need for school. And that's for $40 a month. We have over 100 children still needing sponsorship. And so every sponsorship matters. Every sponsorship is so important. And you can build a relationship with your child, but know that you are helping all of the children there. And that's very basic. That's what the sponsorship helps us to do.
Yeah, with the $40, we've realized, from majority of our sponsors, $40 making a difference in the lives of children, because with that donation on monthly basis, it will help that child to keep him or her in school for 30 days. That is the whole month. And then in case of any medical attention, that is the kit still we are looking into to take that child to the hospital. Apart from that, they also need school stationery. We give them books, exercise books. We also give them some pens, pencils, crayons. So that donation will help to ensure the child eats also, and they are in school. And whenever they are going on a trip, at least their bus is also fueled. So it makes a difference. It makes a child smile, and also transforms a life that child would have been at home, or that child would have been in that facility without attending class. But with your support, it makes a difference in that child going an extra mile to gain knowledge, socialize, get new friends. Which helps them recover.
Yeah.
And also, just to truly, lean in a little bit more about this, this is not something that every child has an opportunity to do, because here in the United States, we're used to education being free, right, that you can just send your child to school. And in Africa, there are fees associated. If you cannot provide for your uniform or pay some of the basic fees, your child does not go to school.
Right.
So as a result, in your surrounding area, Bernard, there can be as many as up to 70% of the children that are not in school because there is no ability for them to go to school.
Yeah, and in most cases, you find the government schools around, they're also overcrowded.
Sure.
Like class population is supposed to be of 40 students per class. But you find in government schools, some classes have 110 children.
Oh, man.
And even the teacher is unable to attend to those kind of children.
All the teachers just listening to this right now.
Yeah. So when a child goes to such kind of a school, we lie to ourselves that education is going on, but sincerely speaking, nothing is going on in that class.
Yeah.
And so we have a very good system at Cherish, and we have put our class numbers to almost 40. 35 to 40, so that numbers are not exceeding, they are not exceeding, and that helps in our teachers concentrating on their children. So I can bet with you that any donation that is made, that $40 makes a difference in that child, and that child will have access to quality education, and they will have a balanced diet. And, they have also people who take good care of them because, all the staff members, we have trained them to exhibit love, care, and excellence. And we are looking at excellence in different areas. If you are a student of art, we want you to be excellent in art. In most cases, in Africa, children are just pushed to perform in class. And that is the old curriculum that we were having in Kenya. But now, by good luck, we have a new curriculum that we are also rolling up called competency-based curriculum. And that is what we are insisting more. Is there anything special you can see in that child, identify and nurture? And that's all about Cherish in ensuring that, there is a lot of excellence.
And that's the thing that I think I want to make sure people understand too, is yes, there is this need that exists. And yes, child sponsorship is this tremendous opportunity that allows us to fill that need. But more importantly, it allows these kids to understand that there's somebody looking out for them while they're in an environment where they are being loved, while they're being, forgive the bad turn of phrase here, while they are being cherished. Because I hope that folks hear what you just articulated there, Bernard, as the opportunity that exists. Because I know a lot of people, especially in the West now, there is this natural sort of cynical based response, right? People assume the worst out of institutions. They assume the worst out of those in authority. And when I hear stories like yours, when I hear opportunities like yours, I think about how the only good thing about 70% of kids not being in the school system is that anything you do to help makes a difference. When something is that dark, the smallest amount of light makes an impact. And it takes all of us being involved in such a way that can change that tide, that can create a new future. But by just the biggest thing that I want to go back to where I started, the last thing I want anybody doing listening is to just go, wow, that was a really nice conversation that they had. Last thing I want to do is touch a little bit on what's going to be coming next. So, Bernard, one of my favorite things about how you were introduced to me is people talked about how you're a dreamer. People talked about how you're a big thinker. If someone's been listening to this and they're thinking about how they'd like to get involved, maybe they've already drafted the email to Jeannine about being a child sponsor, but they're looking for what's kind of coming next. One of my favorite things about an opportunity like Cherish is the idea that you are coming alongside a system that exists, and you get to add fuel, to use your metaphor earlier, you get to add fuel to this bus that's already moving. So when you think about what comes next for Cherish, or when you think about someone who might be just starting this child sponsorship journey, what do you hope that they are hearing from you? Or what would you say to someone who is considering sponsoring but hasn't yet made that decision?
At Cherish, we have an amazing way of sponsorship and engaging with our sponsors. I think maybe we've sponsored children in other organizations. You will get to realize that Cherish is different because you have that personal relationship with your child. You can easily organize with staff members, and you can FaceTime your child. You can write letters. We have also students' email, and they are able to write stuff, and they throw to you, and you having that kind of conversation, because immediately you take up sponsorship role, that kind of child is looking up to you as the parent to support and work with them in different manners, and that makes it more outstanding. And what we are targeting is that you as a sponsor, you have a personal you have that personal relationship and the role that you are playing in the life of that child.
Yeah. Another thing that I would add is what's unique is that we have mission trips there each and every year. So we send teams there that get to check in on the children, engage with the staff, provide additional, whether it be training or support, that is needed. And so truly over the years, I've been able to watch some of these children grow up. Yeah. And so when a sponsor will come and say, hey, did you get to see Mary this time? And I'm like, oh my goodness, she's growing like a weed. And we've just watched her over the last 3 years. So we get to watch these children really turn into just incredible young adults that are going to really be making a difference in their community, because what they're getting at Cherish will Allow them to be difference makers in their community. They'll be different. They're going to be stronger. They're going to be faith-based. Every time we go, we come back and we're like, we could learn so much from these kids. Yeah. And you know what? They don't have much, so they trust on the Lord with all that they have.
Yeah.
And their gratitude is beyond anything that I've witnessed here, just because they're grateful for the opportunity to go to school, to get a meal, to heal from very difficult backgrounds and circumstances. So this is really a beautiful partnership. This is really only a story that God could write. And it's such a privilege and a blessing to have Bernard here, to have him overseeing the school, and that we are just a part of this amazing thing that God is working in and that he has invited us into.
Thank you for listening to the Encounter Faith podcast. This podcast is a service of G. Shep Productions from Good Shepherd Lutheran Church in Naperville, Illinois. All rights reserved. If you're in the area, we'd love to meet you on a Sunday morning at our 9 a.m. or 10:45 services. At Good Shepherd, we are inviting everyone to walk together in the calling of Christ for a life of eternal impact. This podcast is produced and hosted by me, Ross Cochran, and our theme song is Wake the Earth by 1111 Worship. Thank you for listening. We'll talk again soon.